Hi there. Let's talk about the relationship between Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani. More importantly, let's look at the text between Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani. I have the actual text, a snapshot of the text that was entered into evidence in the Elizabeth Holmes trial. If you remember, Elizabeth alleged that Sunny abused her. Did Sunny abuse her? Did Sunny love Elizabeth Holmes? Did Elizabeth Holmes love Sunny? We're going to take a look at the actual text, and I'll give you my analysis. Hi there, I'm Michelle Hagan. I'm a former prosecutor, and I'm also a legal analyst. And you may recognize me. I provided a lot of coverage, a lot of legal analysis on the Elizabeth Holmes case. And I'm going to be putting on my examining glasses because I am a former prosecutor of domestic violence. So we're going to look at these texts and we're going to make a decision. You can make a decision. Do you think she was loved by Sunny Balwani? Do you think she was abused? Do you think she was coerced? What do you think? Okay, so let's take a look at these texts. All right, so let me explain this first. Let me give you a little bit of background in case you popped on to this video. In January 2022, Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of 4 counts of fraud in U.S. District Court in San Jose, California. And she was convicted of being a conspirator to defraud investors with Sunny Balwani. Sunny Balwani's trial is coming up starting next week, March 9th. It's scheduled to start with jury selection, and then March 11th, the trial is scheduled to begin. Sunny Balwani faces the exact same charges as Elizabeth Holmes. He's also accused of conspiring with Elizabeth Holmes to defraud investors and to defraud patients from her blood testing company. All right, so let's take a look at these texts, and you let me know what these texts reveal about the relationship. And did their relationship change when the lid got blown off of Theranos? So let's take a look. All right, so hopefully you can see this. So I highlighted, as I do, some of the areas that I thought were interesting, but feel free to, to go ahead and read through this. So this is from Holmes MacBook Pro. That would be Elizabeth Holmes. This is text and Skype messages that they downloaded, the prosecutors downloaded from her devices. All right, so this is starting June 2011. Just to give you the heads up, we're looking at text from 2011 to 2015. So here's the message. Here's the sender. EAH is Elizabeth Holmes. 2003 is interesting because that's when she started Theranos. And then Sunny Balwani was the receiver. She sent the message. Sunny received it. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to blow it up a little bit here. Hopefully that'll work. Maybe we'll go back here. Okay, so anyway, she sends a message. Boo. She calls him Boo. Did you get first? Virgin, also had no food. So this is talking about him flying. Okay, I'm going to skip down here. She's inquiring about did he get upgraded on the flight? Blah, blah, blah. All right. Then he responds to her, take a nap when you get there. Definitely take a nap when you get there. Our meeting tomorrow is not until 11 a.m. So he's showing concern for her. She responds, I know. We will sleep in the morning too. That is why I'm not doing mass, or we can be in perfect state. I guess mass means massage, or is she going to church? I don't know. You decide. Yep, exactly the reason he responds. And then, scrolling down, through Skype, we are together. Can't be apart from you for even a few hours, he says to her. She says, I know. It's amazing. I know. He says, ultimate blessing. She responds, ultimate blessing. Then she responds, I love you. Then she says, in June, this is continuing on. This is now at midnight, just after midnight, at 12:10. If you look over here, the time is 12:10. She responds to him, "You are Tiger." You are Tiger. She refers to him as Tiger. He responds, "I am Death, Shiva." Okay. Sunny says, "You are Life, both incomplete without each other, both meaningless without each other." That's what he says to her. You are life, both incomplete without each other, both meaningless without each other. She responds, "You are my twin soul." Twin soul. Is that like twin flame? Is that like soulmate? What's twin soul? Anyway, she says, "You are my twin soul. Both came from one soul." So they're souls together. Now rejoined, she says. "You are my twin soul. Both came from one soul. Now rejoined." This is one deep, intense relationship. He says, "True." She says, I think it's Rig Veda. I don't know. You guys let me know what that means. Then she says, "Okay, it looks like getting off computer. Infinite love," she says to him. And then he says, "They sent you a Wall Street Journal article." I assume that's press. They were getting positive press around Theranos. He says, "Okay, love." She says, "You there?" And then, you can read about this. They're having their conversation about him flying. Okay, on which plane, taking net jets or what? Okay, so now we're going to May of 2012. Okay, again, this is just a snapshot. She says to him, she sends him smile. He responds in love and sends a hug. Then he says to her on May 9th, "Missing you. This business cannot be built by either you or I alone. That's why the universe brought us together. Among other billion reasons. No one but you. I guess it's no one but you and I can build this business." That's what he says to her. And then he says together. They're going to build this business together. She says, "I know." So again, these two are alleged to be co-conspirators to defraud investors and patients. Elizabeth has already been convicted of being a conspirator, defrauding investors, assuming she doesn't win her appeal. So he says together, she says, "I know. We have to work together on the Rev piece." I don't know. I guess that's some other article that's being written. I don't know what that is. He says, "Without seems like half my energy is gone, and the building is an empty shell." So he's referring to her as half his energy is gone. "Without seems like half my energy is gone, and the building is an empty shell." So in other words, without her, the building's an empty shell. And that's exactly what he says, "Without you." She sends back a smile, and she says, "I know the feeling." So it must be mutual, that if he's not there, she feels the building's empty, emptiness in her life. If he's not there, then she feels empty. And if she feels, it's Friday, you guys. And if she feels that if he feels that she's not there, then he feels empty. You know what I mean. Okay. Then you guys can go ahead and keep reading along here. Now we're in November 2014. Now again, this is all the time frame before Wall Street Journal gets involved and they write the article. The article comes out and blows the lid off of Theranos. So this is November. This is months before. This is approximately a year before that article comes out. And Sunny says to her, "Because I can sense your energy." So these two must be, again, they very close, I guess could be argued. Very consuming relationship. Maybe. What do you guys think? "I can sense your energy." He says, "I know." She sends a little smile thing back. She says, "I know." So they definitely have a deep connection, I would say. What do you guys think? Then she sends a question. Promise, honest answer? He says, of course. Why? When have I not? She sends a little smile. Why I love you. This is what she's saying to him. Why I love you amongst all the other reasons. Couldn't stop thinking about you the whole time I was there today. He responds, I love you too, darling. What's your question? She sends a little smile, and then they're talking about some leads. You can go ahead and read that. Then we're in March of 2015. Okay, now this is before Erica leaves in April, before Tyler starts asking questions, well, continues to ask questions in April of 2015. Okay, before the Wall Street Journal starts investigating. I think it's around this time they're starting to investigate. Anyway, Sunny says, love you too. Elizabeth says, I love you. Elizabeth sends a little, 2 X's. And says, let's go to Japan together this year. Okay, does this look like a controlling, abusive relationship to you guys? What do you think? Again, we weren't there. We were not there. And, as someone who used to prosecute these cases, I can tell you, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. But again, we're just looking at these texts, right? So she says, let's go to Japan together. He says, okay. And she responds, loving you. He responds, me too. Was just thinking about you. She responds, I miss you. Me more. Again, she says to him, loving you. On my way, he says. She says, here, loving you. All my love and hugs for my queen. He refers to her as his queen. We know that she refers to him as Tiger. Then she says, about to leave Congress, unanimous vote in favor. He responds, unanimous vote in favor of you, baby. Taking off to come home is what she says. I guess she's flying back from D.C., I imagine. Okay, again in May of 2015. So this is around the time questions, I think, are being asked about Theranos. She responds to him, sends a message, being your, is it Madiba? I apologize if I'm clearly getting this wrong, so I'm going to apologize. But Madiba matters more than anything to me. And I think Madiba, I think, refers to the clothes, the shirt that, what's his name? The, Mandela. Yeah, it's Mandela, right? Nelson Mandela, I think, is what the shirt and I think they referred to him by that name. So I don't know, it must be some code they have between the two of them, right? She says, I know. And she says, coming home, baby. He says, love. She says, more love. And look at this. She says, on May 7th, 2015, right here, at 1:18 in the morning, she says to him, what an amazing gift to meet a man I fall madly in love with. A man who is truly great. And in falling in love, he teaches me and helps me grow into who I am. Wow. He responds, waiting for you, baby. She says, coming home tonight, baby. I think 10ish. He says, so, you guys can figure out what that means. We'll drive to the office and then home, she says. Why, she says. He says, very late. She says, I know, and I didn't redact. This is not my redaction. This black spot I didn't do that. That was part of this is an exhibit. They redact, the attorneys redacted this. So Elizabeth says, did you get my text a little while ago about falling in love with you? He says, yes. I'm in love with your beauty, is what he says to her. I'm in love with you, is what she says to him. Okay, now it gets a little interesting, more interesting. This is October 17, 2015. This is a message from somebody else, Jay Rosen. Okay, why I highlighted this date is because the Wall Street Journal article, the one that was written by John Carreyrou, was published in the Wall Street Journal on October 15th, 2 days before this, right? And so this text message, I think, is in reference to this. So he's talking about, this is some Jay. I don't know who Jay is, but sending it to them. The amazing thing to me is this is exactly what we experienced at U.S. healthcare. We cut the cost of health insurance and improved the quality, and yet the papers in the beginning ripped us. So referring to the newspapers, I assume, because the other insurers did not want us. Then the papers realized that we were on to something, and we became a true Wall Street darling. It is such an interesting parallel. So I don't know if that's in reference to the Wall Street expose coming out. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Again, this is just my opinion, right? All right, so let's continue on. So she's talking about taking care of her mother. And then she says to Sunny, all okay over here. We'll brief you when you're back. Don't need to engage in emails. Don't need to engage in emails. Wonder what that means. Okay, he says. On my way, he says. All right. Just a couple more here. She's asking how was it? I think he was in a meeting or testifying somewhere. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to look that up. But anyway, he says to her, "Don't be giddy. Don't be giddy." I guess that means he's trying to tell her, don't. I think the "don't be giddy" relates to, I think what Elizabeth was doing at this time is she was reaching out to other media outlets to combat the negative press they were getting in the Wall Street Journal. And I think she was probably getting some good press pieces out there or getting her message out there. I don't know. I'm speculating. I don't know. But she does say, need to decide on picture of device or not for NYT. And NYT would be the New York Times. So there must be some piece that she wants in the New York Times. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but we'll continue on here. Again, we're just looking at their relationship. I may do a video on the text regarding how they were working out things at work, not relating to the relationship, but relating to the work, right? Going to the allegations of fraud. Anyway, he says to her, all my love. She says, I love you. And then he says to her, love you. I prayed from the bottom of my heart for you. I have never prayed with this intensity in my life for anything and anyone. You will shine. So obviously he's sending her a lot of support and a lot of love for something that's happening. And I think this is about her getting ready to get on Kramer or reaching out to other, getting on Mad Money and trying to combat all the negative reviews in the press. I don't know. So he says to her, was just thinking about you and meditating on my tigress. So again, he refers to her as queen and tigress. She says, I love this. She says, it is us together. So they must be looking at an article or maybe a picture of the two of them, or I don't know, maybe it's just a conversation they're having. She responds, perfection and divinity. On my way to hotel to do New York Times. Okay, so she is talking to the press. And again, this is October 21st. So this is 6 days after the article came out, right? That blew the lid off of Theranos. And she says, good call with AZ Republic and Ducey. I think AZ Republic refers to the newspaper, the Arizona Republic, right? And Ducey, I don't know what that is. Is that a reporter or is that, I don't know. You guys tell me. And then she says, my nirvana. So I guess her nirvana is getting positive marketing press, combating any negativity, any negative reviews about Theranos, or her nirvana is the support she's getting. I don't know. Okay, so again, we're continuing on. This is October 21, 2015. This is after the Wall Street Journal article comes out. All heck breaks loose. And this would be for most people a stressful point, maybe in a relationship, especially when you're the CEO and the COO. I don't know. Let's look. So he says to her, "You are God's tigress and warrior. You are extraordinary." So, he is her number one fan. Isn't that what this is saying? "Coming from my tiger means the whole universe to me," is what she says to him. "I love you," she says. "I worship you. Be yourself," he says. "Me more." I think this is her getting ready to go on Mad Money with Jim Cramer. Okay, he says to her, all my and the infinite strength of the universe with you. Well, they definitely have a very, spiritual relationship, maybe. Um, he says, "I love you." She says, "I love you." He says, very choppy. I don't know if that's I don't know what that is. Maybe it's the reception, or I don't know what very choppy means. "You seemed awesome." So he must have seen the interview. It's telling her she did great. "Oh," and she says, "Did you see it? How did people react?" Sunny says. Elizabeth says, "Perfection." So I guess she's saying, she nailed it. She nailed the interview with Kramer. HMFR. Well, in the trial, the HMFR, I think we learned that that relates to a prayer. I think it's a prayer to God that the two of them share. I don't know. You guys fill me in. HMFR tiger is what she says to him. And then guess what Sunny says? "Worried about your all finger sticks on our technology" comment. He's worried about that comment that she made. All finger sticks on our technology. Because at this time we know that they're not using their technology. They're using third-party machines, right? Which is what was alleged in the indictment. And by the way, do check out the indictment video I did in case you want to know what all the charges are that Sunny's facing, and lays out what the government, the prosecutors allege. All right. So he says he's worried about what she said. Sent an email. The web document is fine. I don't know. I guess he looked at the write-up on the web regarding the interview. I don't know. She says, looking at it, "We can explain to employees facts and all employees today." I'll tell you this much: these guys are on it. I mean, they want to make sure they get the right media out there, right there. Get the right press. Okay. She says to him, "Coming home soon. One of the hardest things I've done in my life this morning." One of the hardest things I've done in my life this morning. Is she relating to the Kramer Mad Money interview? Is that what she's talking about? Her getting on there and telling us more, giving us her version of what happened at Theranos? Again, keep in mind, she was convicted of 4 counts of fraud. Fraud is making misrepresentations, not telling the truth. All right, so she says, "There are not a lot of people in the world." Oh, he says to her, "There are not a lot of people in the world who could have done what she did, I guess, on Kramer." And he says, "Why?" And she says, "I know you do. You are inside me forever." Was horrible right before we went on. So I guess she was under a lot of stress before she went on Kramer, if it's Kramer, but something's happened here around October 21st. And then she also says, "It was horrible right before we went on," and whoever "we" is, "was worse than deposition with him." Who's him? "But I turned him." So she turned him. So I guess she convinced whoever he is of her version of the facts. Sunny says, he was prepped by others to only ask about commercial analyzers. In other words, to nail her and to get her to admit that they weren't using Theranos technology. They weren't using the Edison or the Mini Lab or any of that stuff, right? They were using third-party commercial analyzers, which is a problem because that's not what she represented to the investors. According to the jury, they did convict her of defrauding investors, and one of those allegations was representing that you were using Theranos devices. And so Sunny says he was prepared by others to only ask about commercial analyzers and FDA inspections. In other words, two of the allegations in the indictment, and again, please do look at that indictment video. That'll fill you in about all the allegations that were made. Two of them were that they needed FDA approval and they were representing otherwise. And secondly, that they were only using Theranos machines. They weren't using outside third-party commercial analyzers, which many of the witnesses testified that they were. And then he says, and FDA inspections to take attention away from everything else. So Sunny watched that interview, and this was his assessment. So, and she says, I know. So these two are no dummies, right? No dummies. They did, according to the Holmes jury, defraud 3 investors out of $144 million. Now we're going to see with Sunny's case, what the defense is going to be, whether they're going to bring in these texts. Is Sunny going to say he was abused by Elizabeth? And by the way, I am going to do a follow-up video on whether or not I think she was abused or whether there's evidence of it. And again, just my opinion. But based on these texts that we looked at, these 8 pages of text, seems to be a very loving, supportive, intense twin soul relationship, whatever that is. But to me, just looking at this, glancing at this, I would think these two were deeply in love. And deeply supportive of each other. And so based on these texts, I'm not noticing any abuse or any control from Sunny Balwani. Maybe I missed something. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all of you loyal subscribers. I so appreciate all your comments and your questions. And welcome and thank you to all you new subscribers. And be sure to subscribe. Check out my indictment video. And I'm going to have other videos coming up soon. Please like, share, subscribe, and thanks so much for watching.